Tonight, tragedy chanting. You'll hear from a Manchester United fan. We'll talk about the Anfield experience, past and present, with the voice of Anfield, George Sephton, and a sneak preview of the next Red All Over the Land live event at Hotel Anfield, which will include many former Liverpool players and superstars. This is Red All Over YouTube. It's the live video version of the Liverpool fanzine Red All Over the Land, which has been going for 28 years and is the longest lasting and only surviving Liverpool fanzine. The original editor and the man who's still in charge is John Pearman. Good evening, John.
Good evening.
And our special guest, the voice of Anfield, George Sephton, friend of the fanzine. How are you, George?
I'm not bad. My blood pressure is back down to 4 figures now after Sunday.
Well, yes. Well, let's hopefully we won't have too much excitement tonight, and we'll keep it that way. I want to start with you, George, because after the game on Sunday at Old Trafford, unfortunately, a lot of social media and some of the mainstream media now as well has mentioned the sick tragedy chanting. And I know you make announcements at Anfield about the consequences of fans who chant vile things, including racist, homophobic abuse. Do you know if the other clubs issue similar warnings specifically about tragedy chanting?
I don't know, but I mean, I'm heartily sick of the whole business because it's just not sinking in. As you know, neither is the message about smoke devices. We have to call them now. People get upset if you say smoke bombs. But it's the old story that we go on and on and on about it, and they need to enforce the rules. Something along the lines of closing a stadium for a month or whatever it takes to stop these people. And I know that they're in the minority most of the time, but certainly in some cases, it's not such a small minority. There's clusters of people, there's crowds of people, who are doing this. I mean, the guy who was pictured on social media,
the bald fella,
I believe he's being arrested now. But he'll be trying to say, "Oh, somebody said it was only banter." If that's banter, good grief! My name's Tutankhamun. He once put in away somewhere very secure and very quiet for a long time, and so do the rest of them. I'm sick of it. I'm the father of a Hillsborough survivor, and it really rankles me. These people, are still wandering the streets free, and then they're getting away with it time and time again. I mean, last season, you might remember, I think it was Chelsea, and Liverpool fans were chanting something about Chelsea, but I could hear the Chelsea fans chanting about Hillsborough. And then I was given an announcement to read out, and I read it straight away without going through it first, because there was a break in play. Somebody was down injured, so I thought, now's the time. And I started reading this, then I realised I was shouting at the cop, not the Chelsea fans. And I said afterwards, what on earth was that all about? Why am I was furious with the powers that be for making me do that. And I felt so stupid that, that what was going on at the far end, and I was talking to something which really, really, really not in the same league from, the Chelsea chants I'm talking about, which I still think, is it can't be anywhere near as bad as chanting about dead people. People dying watching a football match. It's insane.
Almost half of them, Hillsborough, let's remember, under the age of 21, and that's never reported. They always go on about 97 Liverpool fans. They don't say, children as young as 10. That's what it was. Yeah, John,
human beings, basically.
Yeah, I think it's we've reached the point where this guy from Manchester may get a fine. He may get a ban from the stadium. That's not going to worry him I mean, he probably doesn't care. What would be if the government came out and said, right, it's an imprisonment, it's a term of imprisonment for this. It's now
It's a hate crime. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not naive enough to say that our fans haven't done it. And you still occasionally hear somebody shout something out, and you think, don't do that. But it's. I mean, we used to do it to Manchester United about Munich, and there was also the Harold Shipman songs that used to go around. It was sickening, but we've stopped. 99.9% of we've stopped. But there's these clubs, and they still fans do it. Chelsea did it at Wembley in the League Cup final. You could hear it. It was audible. It was on TV. You could hear it. And what happened on Sunday? Well, it is sick. And I know that think people like the Manchester United fanzine editor Andy Mitten, he would say the same. It's gone too far, and people should stop it. But people don't know where it ends. I understand that at Nottingham they had the Forest fans were singing "Sign On." All right, it sounds silly. It sounds, but it's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Especially when the unemployment rate in Nottingham's higher than Liverpool. Maybe they're singing it to themselves. I don't know, but it's daft. And you can go to a football match, and a game like Sunday, we lost. We can take that, but it was a cracking game of football.
Oh yeah.
People are putting it up there, one of the best cup ties for a long, long time. And forget that we should have won, could have won, or whatever. That should at the end of the game been what the fans were talking about, what the media were talking about. But it's not, is it? It's something else.
I'm going to play something now because something you said, George. In fact, you did as well, John. That it is a minority of Manchester United fans. That thankfully, and you mentioned the fanzine editor has condemned it. But this is a bloke I saw on Twitter, a bloke called Col from Rainbow Reds, a Man United fan, and I think this is worth showing just to give a bit of balance to what's gone on here.
Reds absolutely upset at what that was written on those walls towards Liverpool fans. To you fans that have done that, okay, you don't stand for this club, okay? You're not part of this club. 99.9% of our fans are not like you. You do not represent this badge. You do not represent this city. You do not represent our views, okay? And I tell you something else. To those families that you're laughing at and trying to make fun of, the Hillsborough families have been to hell and back. They've got more bravery in their little finger than you've got in your whole body. For decades, they've fought for truth and justice for their loved ones that died at Hillsborough. And you mock them like that. No, mate. I tell you what, this club is better off without people like you. You're not fans of this club. You're not even members of the human race. It's an absolute pitiful thing to say. And I'll say to the people of Liverpool, I apologise on their behalf. I've done this before and it seems like I have to do it again. They don't represent this club. I'm sick of seeing it. I'm sick of hearing it. Stop doing tragedy chanting. Stop upsetting people and stop being horrible. It's a game of football, okay? The rivalry is on the pitch. It stays on the pitch. There's respect in the stands, okay? To the people of Liverpool and to Liverpool fans, much love to you. I'm sorry you saw that yet again by idiots that do not represent our fan base, and much love to you.
That was Col from Rainbow Reds. I think well said, and it is an embarrassment to their fans, and it's good to see that someone's, there are Man U fans that will go public and say that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, it's sad that this is, at the end of the day, here we are 3 days after the game, and that's the thing that's being talked about. It shouldn't be. They should be talking about the great game of football. We as fans now, we have to put up with a lot of rubbish about football. If it's, you get a great game like we had with Manchester City, and the only thing they talked about afterwards was should we have had a penalty in the last seconds. And that's 30 years, no, 20 years ago, you'd have gone home and you would have told somebody in the pub, we might have had a penalty. Should have had a penalty. No one would have cared. It was just another incident in a game. But now it's the main focus of the whole match, and the main focus from Sunday has become the tragedy chanting. United beat us. It sickened me. It was my birthday. Didn't ruin it, but it could have done. But So, but there again, we go there again in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks time. We've got to put something right. And as I said to people, there's bigger fish out there than the FA Cup. That's not belittling the FA Cup. Everybody's can do that. There's a league to be won. There's a UEFA Cup, Europa Cup to be won, and I think we'd all prefer a night in Dublin than a day in Wembley. We've been there.
Yeah. You the same, George?
Absolutely. I mean, I was saying to people all last week that if the Archangels had come down to me one night and said, "Okay, you're going to get beaten 6-0 on Sunday, but you'll win the league," I would have said, "Thanks, not do. Off you go."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting paranoid now about winning this league, because what I don't want to see is Jurgen sloping off with his tail between his legs on the 19th of May.
Yeah.
At the moment, we've got the one cup, but to win the Premier League, in front of our fans, people forget. I mean, I'm lucky I was there when we got the presentation last time. You guys weren't.
No.
And I can, go out and find 50-odd thousand people who would have loved to have been there. They weren't there. So I want this league more than I want anything. And again, it'd be nice to win the Europa League. I think, we're up there. We should be winning that. But again, I have all these nightmares creeping over me. I mean, if we don't win the league, then Manchester City start getting points deducted next autumn. I mean, I heard a long discussion on Radio 5, I think it was last night, about when and where these hearings into all these allegations of profit and loss adjustments are going to happen. And Forest, I mean, after what happened at the league match the other week, all the stuff they were coming out with, I didn't bat an eyelid when they got points taken off them. But if for instance City start getting points taken off them, what happens if it's in the autumn? Are they going to take the last 4 league championships off them? Or what's going? I don't know. I mean, it's. John Lennon had a wonderful saying one about his Apple company, that when the Beatles were going, he said everything was fine until the men in suits turned up, and that's exactly what's going on now. It's not going to be how many goals you scored. It's what sort of a good lawyer you've got that's going to sort everything out. It's not right. It really isn't. It really gets me down. You might have gathered I'm really wound up about this.
Well, it's not making sense, because I think Forest have fewer points deducted than Everton. Have I got that right? But Forest had a bigger financial difference than Everton. Is correct? So there's no consistency. What is it? The FA? Is it the referees that are sorting this out? Because the consistency looks similar in the decisions.
Yes, they don't. It's. Somebody said last night they just put their finger in the air and see which way the wind's blowing, or toss a coin and say, okay, what we give them 4, 5, 6, okay, go for the middle for diddle, we give them 4 and see what happens. But again, at this point in time, we don't know whether they're going to get the 4 points rescinded, or he's going to go back in their pot, or what happens if Everton have got more charges in the offing, haven't they? So if they get more points taken off them, I believe I've lost track. I genuinely have lost track of who's doing what and why and when. It's crazy, and all I want to do is for the next, where are we now? March, April, May, the next few weeks until the 19th of May, which will be one of the blackest days of my life, regardless, when Jurgen leaves Anfield for the last time.
That's after the Wolves game, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. All I want to do is watch Liverpool play and do what they did on Sunday. They were running rings around United, and why it should have been about 6-1 to us. Never mind 3-2 down. It was crazy. All I want to do is watch football. I mean, I just despair that there's just no peace anywhere, and it's not the footballers who are doing all the hassle. It's the men behind closed doors and upstairs and whatever they are.
Yeah, those men in suits, as John Lennon rightly put it. But I mean, the thing is, the game shouldn't have got to this stage. If you look at the Football League, when teams have infringed their financial thing, they're told they're given the charge, and a week later they know what the situation is. They're like Wigan, Reading, other teams. They know they get the you don't like the word punish, but they're punished immediately. So there's no hanging on. The thing is, if the end of the season comes, and we'll just say it won't happen, but Everton and Forest were in the bottom three, and then so the other teams are celebrating stopping up, and then all of a sudden they're not. It's like it's VAR, isn't it? In
Don't start me on VAR, John.
We're going to have another look at it. No, we're not going to mention VAR. But going on to Jurgen, last game, George.
Yes.
If you could pick a song to play when he's walking around that ground, what would it be?
Well, I've got a few suggestions sent to me, obviously, and I've got a few ideas of my own. I'm obviously I'm going to play the likes of "I Feel Fine" because that's what the crowd will be singing. But I'm at the back of my mind already lined up is "Hurt" by REM. Everybody hurts sometime, and I'm plucking up the courage to play "Time to Say Goodbye" by. I like the Catherine Jenkins version, but there's the Italian tenor whose name has gone out of my head for a second. I'm getting old, as you know, but whatever. I think it'll all be drowned out by the cop will decide what's going on. Whatever I do, they'll disappear.
I was looking at something today. And there's one. It came out by. It's not a pop record. It was something more attuned to something else. It was called. We'll say a Vida Sane or something, and it was by somebody called the Wellingtons. It's very tearful. It's
Andrea Bocelli is that guy I was thinking of.
Right. I mean, I know when the American election came out, the results came out that Trump had been elected. I was doing a breakfast show on Bob FM, and I played REM, "The End of the World as We Know It." That's probably a bit too dramatic for the leaving of.
I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm still in shock. I know that when he announced he was leaving, I happened to be sat in front of the TV doing my usual morning crossword, which, it's my little routine in the morning. Breakfast, coffee, do the crossword, then I discover my brain is still actually working. And then, the telly's on. And then I started getting text messages. And I quickly switched the TV over to Sky Sports News. I was thinking this was another stupid rumour, as they go around. And now there's Jurgen sitting there and he's saying, "I'm leaving at the end of the season." And I felt like I'd been stabbed through the heart. I just couldn't believe it because I've been sitting here happy in the knowledge that he had extended his contract till 2026, which is 2 years off. And all of a sudden he's going at the end of the season. And I'm thinking, I really, really, really don't think we'll cope without him. But I'm glad for his sake that he's getting out of it, because when you look at the pictures of him now and the pictures of when he joined, it's perfectly obvious how much stress he's been under. And obviously, and Kenny went through all that years ago. Bill Shankly went through all that, but Bill Shankly had a dicky heart, and he got out at the right time, although he didn't. Obviously, he lasted 7 years after that. And Gerard Houllier is another one we forget, because he didn't sort of leave; he moved on. But I'm glad for Jurgen's sake he was getting out of it now. For our sake, he's left he's leaving the club in a good state. We've got all these prospects coming through. We got what was the average age of the team? I think the first team is about 24. And there's all these kids coming through the academy, and some of which we haven't even seen yet. And one or two who people say are brilliant, we've never clapped eyes on. I mean, if he'd gone off and just left Conor Bradley here, that'd be a result, to be quite honest. Whoever brought him through the academy is a miracle worker, because I've never seen anybody come into the teams and slot in so quickly. And what was it last Sunday? You were upset when he got taken off.
Yeah.
One wicket getting taken off, and you're thinking, what are we going to do now? So, as I say, for his sake, I hope he has, 12 months of peace or whatever, and does whatever he's got to do, and then takes a deep breath and gets on with the rest of his life. Because if he deserves all the luck in the world for what he's done for us, and obviously this time it's personal for me, because as you probably know, he was a huge help when my book came out. In the publicity he gave it personally I'm in debt to him for the rest of my life, basically. And I'm, as I said, having watched him leave Mainz and then Borussia Dortmund, seeing all the videos, I think May the 19th is going to be 100 times worse. But we'll just have to grit our teeth and get on with it, and hope we send him off with a running around the Anfield with a big chunk of silverware.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking today.
There's always a first time for everything, John.
Yeah, but it certainly is, and I don't think a lot, as you know. But it was. I was thinking when he came in, we'd got players like Mario Balotelli and a few others. I'm not going to go through the names, but whoever comes in is going to suddenly see all these players from the academy, and I think they'll probably be overwhelmed. I think, well, what do I do with them? I can only pick 11. It's something. It was different when Shankly left. Of course, the team you only needed 13, 14 players, and it wasn't too much different when Bob Paisley moved on. He still left a team of champions. But what Jurgen was left with was, I've got to, it was like, I've got to start again. And he started with Trent, didn't he? That basically, and that was it. And from there onwards, we've got all these players, and I've been a big advocate. I've argued with people. It's all right going out there and saying, right, we're going to buy a player from wherever, and he's going to cost you 50 million, and everybody immediately goes out and buys the shirt, and his name's going up in lights outside the ground. But then you've got somebody like Jaden Dans, Lewis Kumas,
Kwanzaa.
People don't know who they are. But all of a sudden you're thinking, blimey. You just mentioned a name there, and this was like Conor Bradley as well. If they're now in the lineup, you think, well, that's all right. Yet 12 months ago, nobody knew who they were.
Yeah.
And, you don't... nobody's turning around saying we got beat by Manchester United because we were lacking.
Yeah.
No, the same we played, but we didn't play well. And I actually thought the team we put out was pretty good, and I thought that'll win.
Yeah.
And anybody knows me knows I don't normally say we'll win. But I was even worried about going into that game last Thursday night with only a 5-1 advantage. So, but yeah, we've got these young lads, and they're all there, and we've got some seasoned professionals. You look at McAllister. He's only 24, isn't he? He looks a bit older, but he's only 24, and yeah, you've got
Won the
people.
World
You got
Well,
people.
the whole of the midfield was devastated at the end of last season. He rebuilt it instantly.
Yeah.
Him and Szoboszlai and Endo. It was just great. That's
Yeah.
just great.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember the outcry when we signed Endo. People were saying, "What we're signing him for?"
Yes.
Because nobody knew. But Jurgen actually said, I watch the Bundesliga every week.
Yeah.
I know who's good and who's not good." So
Endo, in my humble opinion, is the bargain of the century. Really, I saw something on. You will have seen it on Facebook. I think it was the other day. Fact: so 75% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. The other 25% is covered by Wataru Endo.
yeah,
What I've noticed about him, Endo, several times now, I've suddenly looked down about half an hour into the game, or maybe even later on, and realised he's playing because he just goes about his work. He does his job and gets on with it, and no histrionics, no spectacular this, that, the other. He just does. He reminds me of Steve Finnan in that respect, because Steve was another one when we won the Champions League. He just got on with what he had to do, and didn't want to be a big star. He just loved playing football, and he loved playing for Liverpool, and he did what he was supposed to do. He was sent out to do a job, and he did it. And Endo, he's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, if you've just joined us on whatever platform you're watching on, because we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitch for the first time this time as well. We're on Facebook, of course. You can join in on the show and you can leave comments. Hi to Mark Anthony. He says, "Good evening, GMAC and lads." Well, it's really John Pearman and lads, actually, Mark. Lee Wizkid says, "Evening, gents." We've got one here from Derek Mailer. He's said Andrea Bocelletti. How do you say it?
Bocelli.
Bocelli. There you go.
Bocelli.
I think he was reminding you when you were still working out what it was, but you got there in the end anyway. Yeah, if you'd like to comment on what song possibly George could play for the last for when we play Wolves at the end of the season, if you want to, maybe we can pass it on to George. You never know; it might be the song that gets played. But no, they haven't yet. They haven't yet, George. I'm just saying, if anybody who's watching now wants to put it there in the comments on whichever platform you're watching on, we are the YouTube and the live video version of this, Read All Over the Land, and which is the fanzine, the only surviving and longest lasting Liverpool fanzine, edited by John Pearman for all this time. We're with George Sephton, the ground announcer, the voice of Anfield. And Alan Doolan has just sent a message. He says, "Good shout, re Steve Finnan." He says, "An Endo comparison." So he's agreeing with you there, George, is Alan.
Thanks, Dad.
So, John, issue 300 came out not long ago, about 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
No, a bit longer than that, about a month ago.
Okay, so issue 301. So now you've got what can you tell us about issue 301?
Well, it's got a lot in about a trip to Wembley.
Yes.
Which, that's the one. And it's basically a tribute to the team that won at Wembley. That's the majority of it. But we've got some another new writer, James Cranford, who I think is Redmen TV. He's contributed with a very, very good article, very much in fanzine style. And he actually says that Kostas Tsimikas looks like somebody that's just come off Concert Square at 4 o'clock in the morning every time he goes on the football field. And I never thought about that, but yeah, he does. And I can remember seeing pictures of Terry McDermott, going home at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it was a dumb thing then.
Yeah.
So and this one comes out. It'll be on sale at the Legends game. So if anyone's going to the Legends game, we'll be selling it there.
Yeah, only £2. You can't miss, John. You'll be back at the main stand.
No, that's right. You can't miss me. And apparently, we're now quite happy to say that these shows are watched all around the world. Because I was approached by somebody from, two guys, one from North Carolina, one from South Carolina. I said,
Did they know each other, John? North and South Carolina?
No, they
okay.
didn't. They came up separately. And I said to the guy from South Carolina, "What's the temperatures back where you are?" I said, "It was 77 when I left." And I was standing there with a woolly hat on, scarf, coat, gloves. And I thought, well, thank you. But so, yeah. And also we've met people at the Manchester City game. A guy came up, he was from Hong Kong. And he said, he'd come over and he said, "Is that the fanzine?" He said, "I've been told I've got to buy the fanzine." I said, "Who said that?" So I've seen it on YouTube. So yep, there we go. See, it's read all over the world at the moment. So it's good. Yeah.
But there's been some confusion as to, one bloke there says that the fanzine. I mean, the classic thing you get all the time is that the programme. But also people wondering if you're selling other stuff as well, John.
Yeah, again against Manchester City. I don't know about any other fanzine editors. I'd like to know. But somebody came up, you possibly remember. I think I saw you just before that game, George. And
Yes,
somebody came up to me and asked me, because it was drizzling, if I was selling plastic Macs. And I said, no, but I did say, if you got the fanzine, I said you could always do this.
Yes.
But
yeah.
He declined. He didn't give me £2.
He's giving you an idea there, though, John. You should always have maybe a bag of pack. You get a bag of Pack of Max from Poundland or something, and if it's to start drizzling, you could sell them as well at an extortionate price.
And and then of course the other one, the classic that came up, as somebody came up to me, and quite seriously, it wasn't a joke. He quite seriously said, "I've just bought a stone. These are the stones that's all around the ground now." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Do you know where it is?"
These are the forever stones with people's names on them, yeah.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know what. So he thinks you know every one of those stones, where they are and who's on them.
Where it was.
See, that's a good result, though, John. He thinks you know that much about the club that you know every minor detail about the ground as well.
Well, the thing is, he didn't buy a fanzine, so I wasn't going to tell him.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Because I was always told if you're hosting an event and someone comes up to you and asks you where the gents is or something, you're doing it right because it looks like you know about everything about the event. So if someone comes up and asks you something like that, it's only a good result for the fanzine, John.
Oh, but I wish he'd have bought one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get on to the next event because, George, I think you've been at all of the Red All Over the Land live events, haven't you? You haven't missed one yet.
So.
You had the Kevin Keegan one. You were at
Kevin Keegan one was wonderful.
He was great, wasn't he?
For personal reasons, you know the story. I started.
Well, in case anybody watching who doesn't know, George, fill us in.
He and I started the same day, 14th of August, 1971. The funny thing on the night you won't have seen, I don't know if John saw it. I trolled up with 3 copies of his autobiography and said, "Will you sign these? And we'll auction them off after." And he good as gold he did. Then I gave him a copy of my book. I said, "I brought you a present, Kevin." And he said, "I hope you're going to sign that for me." And I looked at him, but just there, I said, "Of course I will." So I'm signing the thing. And Peter, the owner of the Hotel Anfield, came in. And he very nearly passed out. He said, "What's going on?" "Kevin Keegan wanted your autograph." And I said, "I don't know what's happening anymore, Peter. I'm just signing it." I was in total shock. But then he made a couple of cracks about stadium announcers on one of which I thought was hysterical. He said when he was at Doncaster, the crowds were such that the stadium announced the changes in the crowd to the team and not the other way around. I thought,
he gave an example, didn't he? There was an old lady or something that was she wasn't very well and she wasn't going to make it to the match. Yeah. And so they actually did announce the changes in the crowd to the team.
It's absolutely brilliant. And he's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'll say I've got a lot of time for Kevin Keegan going back years, because I know once or twice I saw him at Anfield signing things for people. And one particular, I think it was Terry Mack's testimonial, he turned up and he was stood in the doorway signing autographs. I'd just been to the office to get my keys and whatever. And I saw him turn up and he stood in the doorway until he'd signed everybody's paper or program or what. He didn't need to. He was free. He was through the door. He just could have gone in, gone and had a drink or a cup of coffee. And he carried on. And that really impressed me. That's a proper, star. None of your, fancy Dans that you get someone who won't sign anything for anybody. And I said, there's only Kevin and Roberto Baggio I've seen do that. I saw him do that at Anfield, 98, I think it was, the World Cup match at Anfield. And he's such a lovely fella. And I say, if anybody listening hasn't seen him live, and I know he's going around a bit at the moment and doing these events, go and see him. He's fantastic to listen to.
Yeah, and he was great too, wasn't he, Johnny? I mean, how many people had the meet and greet with Kevin? Because he had time for everybody at that on the night.
It exceeded 100, and and we were told he wouldn't be doing these things. He didn't do these things. He basically stayed there and did everything, and he came up when it was all over, and he just said thank you. I'm going home. But he came up and said thank you. You know, I was going to thank him for coming, but he said thank you for having, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, I know, I can't remember whether I read it in Phil Thompson's book or whether I heard him say it on a podcast, but he said that when he was coming through at Anfield and Kevin Keegan was there, he'd noticed that about how Kevin was with the fans. And he remembered that, and he wanted to be that way. And coincidentally, we had Tomo as our guest on the Red All Over the Land event before that one. And Tomo was just the same, wasn't he? He signed everything everybody had. He was there for hours at the end. In fact, I tried to wind things up at one stage, and he told me to bugger off and carried on, didn't he, answering questions from the floor. He was great. Yeah. So that brings us then to the next event, John. What is the next Red All Over the Land live event? They sell out pretty quickly, so tickets aren't on sale for this one just yet, because I know the date is still a little bit up in the air, but we know at this stage we do have a provisional date, don't we, John?
Yeah, the idea is on May the 4th, Saturday, May the 4th. We're due to play Spurs, but if we're in the Europa Cup semi, we'll be playing it on a Sunday, and the chances are Sky will move the game anyway. And for once, I'm hoping they do, just in case. But the idea is to celebrate the Kop's last stand, calling it the Bastion of Invincibility, tribute to that. And it was, the Kop. Well, George knows this. The Kop then and the Kop now are totally different. And the Kop then was possibly in 1964 with the famous Panorama program that George didn't make. He was in the crowd, but he didn't get. We can't remember seeing him on the video.
I was in that crowd.
Yeah, and it was basically, it looked all male, so it was different. And the idea is to celebrate the 30 years from then onwards to the game against Norwich, when, of course, it was the Kop's last stand. People have said, well, it still stands, but there was a long period of time when we actually all did sit down to watch the games.
Yeah.
It's only in the last 10 years, maybe, that people have started standing. And we want to basically celebrate it. So what I'm planning to do is get players, a selection of players, no names at the moment because nobody's confirmed, or we've not confirmed the date either. but to get players who have played in front of the Kop, but not only that, they stood on the Kop. So that gives you an idea of some of the people that we want to talk to. But we also want to bring families of the people that played for the club, who I'm not saying they're forgotten, but possibly don't get the praises these days that they maybe should, because, as I say, it's a changing game. But we're talking about the families of people like Bob Paisley, Bill Shankly maybe, Joe Fagan. Joe Fagan was it a Manchester City player recently? I'm not going to mention his name. Said Liverpool fans don't know what it's like to win a treble. Well, we've won more than one. And Joe Fagan was the first English manager to actually take a club to win a treble, and that was back in, of course, '84. And it doesn't get the credit for it. And to me, I called it the forgotten treble. It was something else. I can remember him standing on the pitch at Notts County being interviewed. I think it was John Motson. He'd got fag. And he was, but that they just won that. They'd won the League Cup, and then it was off to Wembley, and to Rome to win another cup. I can't remember what that cup was. Can you? And it was
big one with big ears.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and I think he sat next to a swimming pool with it. But that was something, And of course, his sidekick, Ronnie Moran, people like that. What a great man! And these are people. If it wasn't for these people, not just Bill Shankly, but if it wasn't for these people, this current Liverpool wouldn't be what it is now. So we want to try and invite family members. Sadly, most of those players now have left us, but we want to get some of the families and friends of the teams that played for Shanks, Bob Paisley, and Joe Fagan. We want them to come along and share their family thoughts with us, and and we'll make them very welcome. But I want it to be a whole day, not just the evening. We want to have something in the afternoon where people can come along, buy merchandise, hopefully to take them to
Dublin.
To Dublin, and also, of course, buy their Jurgen Klopp souvenirs for the final day. But on the day we do play Spurs, the idea is to have a flag day to commemorate the Kop, and the lads from the Spine Kop 1906 are working on this with the club. So we're hoping to have, I'll say I'd love to see 1,000 flags on it. If we only get 500, what a sight that will be. But yeah, that's all in the pipeline.
Okay, and these events, if you've never been to one, just like the fanzine is by the fans and for the fans, these events, they're not like your corporate events. They are by the fans and for the fans. There are some legendary fans that are at these events, fans who've made and displayed the legendary banners through the years. In fact, we had the Joey Jones banner, didn't we? Displayed at our first event, and people like John Mackin and people like the poet Braces and Boots. What's his name? John Kirby. You've got the Dave Kirby. The fans of the club are the people who are involved in it, and you'll be part of that too. And obviously, if you're available, we'd love to see you there again. Being part of this. These Red All Over the Land events are getting closer. You're getting closer to the fans. It's not like this corporate club, dare I say LFC TV type events. They are proper fan events put on by the fans for the fans through the fanzine Red All Over the Land, because that's the kind of thing John does. And this is why you end up with so many great unique auction lots as well, John. You've had some terrific lots. Have you got stuff lined up for this one just yet?
Yes, I've got a signed Roger Hunt
wow
picture, but it's not a picture, it's large. It could do with framed. I've got a shirt signed by most of the current squad. Of course, unfortunately, it hasn't got all the current squad on there because most of them were at school when it was being signed. We've got a Jurgen Klopp Europa cap. So signed
And
by
this would be the time to get it too, wouldn't it? At the
yeah,
if you're going to get, I mean, anything by Jurgen would be lovely to have, but to get it
definitely.
something from now, from his final season in charge, would be a
And
special souvenir.
I've also got a signed James Milner montage, and also again a montage signed by Stephen McMahon. But I'm
Right.
hoping to get
Who has also been at one of our events as well. Yeah.
I'm hoping to get this signed by some former players.
Tommy Lawrence.
The great goalkeeper. And when I say people aren't recognised for what they did for this club, he was probably a bit. George might agree, disagree. He was probably a bigger character than Bruce Grobbelaar.
Yes, he was. We didn't appreciate him at the time, I don't think. I mean, I had the privilege of doing events with him at the Devonshire House a few years ago, obviously before he passed away. As you know, that book, the Tommy Lawrence book, is coming out shortly. We're having the first press day on Monday at the Sandon, and then they've got 5 events lined up to launch this book. One's at Waterstones, then there's Pritchard's in Crosby. I'm going to all of these because the Sandon on Monday is the first one. Then one of them is going to be at the Packhorse Hotel, the pub in the middle of Culcheth, which is where Tommy used to drink, and that's where I first met Tommy. I was working in Culcheth, and he went and used to go in there a lot, and it was right over the road from Roger Hunt's yard where he was running the Hunt brothers after he'd left football. And I say Tommy was such a nice bloke. I had the honour of standing up in front of him, doing a little talk about and saying what a great keeper he was. It was when Guardiola was starting to go on about sweeper keepers. And I said, we had one of them 50 years ago, mate. And he sat there. Tommy Lawrence, he was completely different to what had gone before. And I'm old enough to having seen him start out playing for Liverpool. I think he took over from Bert Slater. Was it?
Jim Furnell. He took over from Jim Furnell. Yeah, Jim Furnell was the key.
Was an Arsenal reject, wasn't he? Bert Slater. I think my dad used to hate Bert Slater. I don't know what. When I watched him and I thought he was all right, but then Tommy Lawrence came along, and to this day I don't know why they called him the Flying Pig, because he was never that big, but he did the job.
But I think with Tommy Lawrence, when he came into the side in '63, we hadn't made a great '62. They hadn't made that great a start to the season, but he came in and the whole team changed and started to win games. But I had the privilege. I met him a couple of times, but one time I was just walking along the Anfield Road to a game. It was a night match, and the players used to park the cars just somewhere. The guests, the former players had parked the car somewhere, and I spotted him walking across, and I said, "Oh, Tommy, I've got this fanzine." I said, "You're in it." He said, "Oh, can I have a look?" And I said, "Yeah." And walking along, just like you're just going off to the game. I said, "Would you sign it?" He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, send it to me, and I'll sort it." And still got the signed piece there now. And it's when he spoke to the Cop newspaper in '67.
Yeah.
And it was chatting to him. It just like you were going to the game and you spotted somebody saying, "How do you think we're going on tonight?" Then, and that was it. And when he went into the then players' entrance where they had to go, it was just see you. That was it. And so I met him. Can't remember exactly how many times. At least 3. And of course, we had that famous TV interview when
Yeah.
He was the but it wasn't so much his ability on a football pitch. I mean, he played for what was it, like 8 years and hardly missed a game. I mean, I don't think he did miss a game. Um, and was it Bronco Lane was somebody like that they used to call him
Yes.
who was the reserve goalkeeper, and I don't think anybody knew who he was. It was
Yeah.
you're not like that. You didn't get sat on a bench or anything. But when the time came and Shankly said that's it, he went. That was it. There were no fanfare or anything. But yeah, to me, one of the greatest characters in a team full of characters. I think that team of the early 60s, the team that won the league and the cup, etc. You'd got your sort of like model professionals, and I'd include Roger Hunt in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got your characters, and I'd include Tommy Lawrence in that. Sort of guy you wouldn't mind going out for a drink with.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I can say I did go out for a drink with him once. So, he was, as I say, he was such a lovely bloke. And one of my great memories that the last do at the Devonshire it was called the Two Tommies, because Tommy Lawrence was there and Tommy Smith, and by that time, poor Tommy Smith was in the advanced stages of dementia, and he really didn't know where he was or who he was, and he ended up sitting at my table with his daughter who was looking after him, and Tommy Lawrence came over to say hello, and when Smithy saw Tommy Lawrence, his eyes lit up, his whole face was beaming. It was somebody he could recognise, and he couldn't work out why or who, but the joy on that fella's face just to see one of his old comrades was priceless, absolutely priceless. But God bless him. I'm looking forward to seeing the book.
Yeah, and the book's written by a friend of the fanzine and someone who we've had on this show, John.
Yeah,
Peter.
Peter Tennant Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's look forward then. The upcoming games. Next one is Brighton. What do we reckon?
Well,
go on, George.
I was just going to say, much as I hate to use this phrase, because they are all must-win games now. We've got no messing about. We've got to go and steamroller everybody in sight. I'm looking forward to going back to Old Trafford again, because I think we'll give them such a good hiding this time. Brighton, everybody is beatable now. Sadly, we've got to hope that Arsenal and City, do something silly. I mean, a goalless draw and lots of sendings off will go down well in that game. But we've got to get on with our game and just get gritting our teeth for the last few weeks of the season and do what we can do. As I say, Sunday we played well. How the hell we didn't win, I still don't know. But we play anything like near that level again, and assuming that we don't get any more nasty injuries in the squad, we'll get away with it. As I say, I just want to win this league for Jurgen. That's the very least we can do for him.
John?
I agree. Well, of course, City and Arsenal meet the same day as we play Brighton, or the same weekend.
Weekend.
Sorry? And
same weekend,
if I don't care who wins it, because we've got to look after ourselves. Having said I don't care who wins it, if you look at it, possibly if anybody's going to win it, it should be Man City, because then we can go top. So being in front. But yeah, we've got some tough games. We've got games at
Sheffield United.
Well, we've got Villa away.
Is that after the Atalanta game? The Villa game?
Yeah. That's the penultimate game of the season, I believe.
Yeah.
So we've got some tough games. So, but I still think that teams are going to drop points, and we'll just have to wait and see. But I like to think of us as in this current race. We're the underdogs. We're the team that's we've so we'll go out there and we've got to fight for everything. No one's going to give us anything. We know that now. I was very disappointed with Michael Oliver at the City game, not giving that was a penalty. To me, I can't understand why it wasn't a penalty. No one can convince me it wasn't a penalty. If he'd done that in the street, he'd been in prison. It was ridiculous, but I just feel that it's down to the team. They're playing for Jurgen. There's no arguments about that. They are playing for Jurgen. And by then we could have Trent back. We might have the player who I think we're missing at the moment is Jota.
Yes.
I mean, if we could have brought him on Sunday, I'm not going to criticise anybody, but if we could have brought him on for say the last half an hour, although it had probably started anyway, but if we'd have brought him on for the last half an hour, it would have been totally different. And I don't think the media certainly don't concentrate on it, but when we're missing players like that, it's incredible. I mean, we've got a goalkeeper that no one thinks about at the moment, and he's got to come back. Canate can come back in. The good thing is all these players are missing the internationals.
Yeah.
So we're hopeful. I'm hopeful. And, Trent, but we've now got Conor Bradley. It's incredible that no one's thinking what would we have done if we'd got Trent, but no, it's got Conor Bradley, and to me the player of the season's got to be Joe Gomez, just simply for what he's actually gone through. I mean, there was one game we were playing, it was the Southampton game, and I said to the girl next to me, I just can't work out where Joe Gomez is playing. I said, I thought he was in defence. No, he's not. He's in midfield. It's just like, I thought, but of course he is. Yeah, but could you have 12 months ago? People would have said, "Well, sell him." But But the one thing about this manager, and he gives everybody a chance, and he knows what these players can do. Gerald Kwanzaa, to me, what a find. I'm surprised he's not made the England squad. That's how good I think he is. But I'm glad he doesn't. But and Harvey Elliott, 20-year-old, and he's becoming one of the main parts of the team, and he's played over 100 games. It's incredible.
So it's all thanks to Jurgen. So if hopefully the team can win it for him, if for nothing else, it's going to be a hell of a season. And of course, we may even be in the Europa Cup final in Dublin as well. So, yeah.
Well, I think if we get to the Europa Cup final, Rishi Sunak thinks about all the stopping the small boats. He's going to have his work cut out that day.
All right then. Well, on that, we'll leave it there.
People will be going over to Dublin in dinghies.
One more possibility. That final could be our current manager versus our next manager.
Yeah, it
could. Is it really? Okay, yes.
It'd be sort of like they could do the handover at the end, can't they?
Yeah. Not that we're speculating, because there's more speculation about who's going to be the next Liverpool manager than there is about who's going to be the next James Bond right now.
Yeah, but, I'm ready to call on both counts.
George Sephton, it's been a pleasure having you on. So you're going to be, if people want to see you, did you say the Sandon is where you're going to be next? Is that the next event?
Lunch. I think it's lunchtime on Monday. Yes.
Yes, I'll be there.
You'll be there as well. If you want to see John or George Sephton, you want to see two legends of Anfield, then the Sandon is the place to be at lunchtime on Monday for the launch of the Tommy Lawrence book. And that'll be really nice. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get a coffee, because we did when we went to that other book launch, did we? So the Greek guy. So so hopefully we'll get a coffee in the Sandon and a sandwich.
And talking of books, George, your book is still on sale, which is a cracking read. You get it on Amazon.
It's still on Amazon, hardback, paperback, audio. It's funny, I went past the place where I recorded the audio today. I hadn't been down there for a long, long time, but it's available. I've even got CDs which are a bit pricey, but when they come down, I might end up having a stall at one of these dudes myself. The way things are going.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You'll be welcome. We won't
Best of
charge
luck.
you.
Best of luck with that. And John, the issue 301 of Read All Over the Land will be on sale at the Legends game.
At the Legends game on Saturday, and it should be fun. We can watch that game and not worry.
All right. And if you'd like to subscribe to Read All Over the Land, you'd like to get Read All Over the Land in your mailbox, then you can subscribe and find out more about Read All Over the Land at the internet address is there at the top of the screen there. It's readallovertheland.com. Guys, thank you so much. Until next time, remember, you'll never walk